Welcome to the Guyana High Commission. Welcome to this launching of the literary works and photographic exhibition that depicts and reflects the culture of Guyana. We're happy to have you here. This is an auspicious occasion. We celebrate our 50th year of independence, and we have several activities, this being the most creative aspect of it, reflection of our cultural heritage, depiction of sceneries, reflections on Guyana. We have a very rich literary and cultural heritage that ranges from several years, with influences from the Dutch, the British, the French from colonial times, of course from our own indigenous ancestry, from Africa, from India, from the Caribbean itself, ranging from folklore straight into the written word, from pre-independence, where we had influences such as Walter Raleigh, who did works on the beautiful Guyana, right down to independence era and all that went on, Martin Carter, into the modern day kind of literary works, reflections of which some of you right here are part of that aspect. We've had literary works over the years from in the diaspora and from within Guyana itself. Modern day writers that have put their own perspective on our social life, the way we live, the way we interact with each other, the way we interact with the rest of the world. And so it's really an honor and a privilege for us at the Guyana High Commission to welcome you to this event. And we hope that you will be able to look at the pictures and reflect with some kind of nostalgia for those Guyanese and non-Guyanese with new eyes, and reflect on some of the works and some of the accomplishments we've made over the years in terms of our movement in literature in Guyana, and our influence and our effect on not only the Caribbean but on the rest of the world. So thank you for being here. Welcome, and without further ado, I hand you back to Master Sir.
Thank you.
We will move swiftly into a presentation by Mr. Wayne McQuat, who is an architectural enthusiast, if I may describe him as such, who will give you a brief insight into some of the architectural history and, I suppose, present-day architecture of Guyana. And I think what we can describe here now is a journey from our colonial times to current, present day. So I'd like to hand you over to Wayne McQuat. I'd like to invite Rosie McAndrew to say a bit more about her piece of work and her experiences as Wordsworth's White Wife. Over to you, Rosie.
Hello everybody, it's an absolute honour to be here with you today to help celebrate Guyana's 50th anniversary of independence. I first went to Guyana in 1968, 2 years after independence. I went as a VSO, but before I went on a BBC training course, I met Wordsworth, who was studying television, had been studying television there. In fact, he knew that television wouldn't exist in Guyana for years and years and years, but anyway, he went on this course. So I met him there, and so when I went out as a VSO, I already had that contact, and we spent a lot of time together in the first year, and then I came back to England after my VSO year finished. I was working at Broadcast to Schools. I expect some of you will remember Celeste Dolphin, Broadcast to Schools. So I was one of the people who did some of the programs. You might even have been at school at that time, I don't know. Anyway, so I had a year back in England, then I went back and we eventually got married. I'm afraid the marriage didn't last very long, 2.5 years. But I have a daughter at the back there, Shuri. And she now has a son, so I have a grandson, and they are part of my what I've gained from being in Guyana. But actually it was a very important part of my life. It was probably the most important part of my life. It made a really strong impression on me. I loved the place. I loved seeing those photographs. Thank you very much. I went back in 2013 and was very disappointed with the way things had gone down then, but I've heard that since then it's really, really coming up. The place is being cleaned up, but I'm like you. I regret the passing of some of those lovely wooden buildings. I mean, that's what I love most. In fact, I wanted to live in a lovely little wooden cottage with jalousies and fretwork. And eventually, we did find one. But when I went back in 2013, it had gone. I couldn't take a picture of it. Anyway, so my book. Well, at first it was published by Caribbean Press, the Guyanese publishing house, the government printing place. But I had to cut it a lot to get it into their format, so that was the first version. And then I discovered that although it had been printed there, in fact it would only be free distribution to schools and libraries in Guyana, so I wouldn't be able to, sell it or, get my friends to read it or anything else. So I decided to publish my own version, which is this one, and there are a few copies left next door. I'm going to read you a few little bits from that, just a little. So much of the richness of my early experience of Guyana was due to Mac. He took me everywhere, he showed me everything. From street vendors we bought curry and roti, soft, flaky Indian flatbread filled with succulent chicken curry, folded over and wrapped in brown paper, oozing with juices. Outside Stabroek Market, with its distinctive clock tower, there was a melee of human and animal life. People selling, buying, hurrying, liming, playing cards, people on bicycles, whole families sometimes, or stately single women with an umbrella held aloft in one hand and the handlebar in the other. Horses and carts, donkey carts, policemen on motorbikes in navy uniforms with long white sleeves for directing the traffic. And the buses, bright blue wooden East Bank United Bus Company buses with their glorious scarlet names, Luxury Liner, Mahatma G, United Nations, Duke, Princess Abiola, can you remember them all? And the yellow ones, of course, as well. On the edge of the open-air border market, we watched the coconut men perform their magic on huge, unripened green coconuts, one hand balancing a hefty coconut, the other wielding a machete. With this lethal-looking implement, they would chop off its top and shake round the edges before handing it to us to drink the cool, sweet coconut water inside. After draining the last drop, we would hand it back. First, they would delicately slice off a small oval section of a hard green casing. I wondered why. Then they would expertly split and heave the coconut in two. And then the purpose of the little oval piece became clear. It was a spoon for us to scoop out and feast on the transparent, soft jelly lining the smooth insides of the shell. Fabulous. Nearby would be a cane juice machine with its enormous wheel to turn the closely packed ribbed rollers and crush lengths of sugarcane into sweet, pale yellow juice. Underneath was a large enamel bucket with a tap to let the juice stream into a succession of tall glasses positioned below. The cane juice man was adept at dividing his time and attention between deftly replacing each full glass with an empty one just before it overflowed, and feeding yet more lengths of cane into the rollers to keep up an endless supply. Sometimes we would buy glasses of juice, sometimes pieces of the sugar cane itself, and exercise our teeth on the tough, fibrous stalk, biting and chewing to suck out the sweetness. This was harder and messier work, and justified its tribute in the Guyanese proverb, "You can't suck cane and whistle." Border Market itself was a riot of colour and activity. Large women ambling through the crowds with wide baskets of produce on their heads. Women squatting under cardboard shelters or plastic-covered umbrellas. Women with Indian head ties and traditional Madras cotton or made of newspaper. Women shelling beans. Women sewing violently coloured scraps of fabric into hats. Women probing the brightly coloured fruit and vegetables spread out in parcels. Small, clearly separated groups with no trace of brown paper or string in sight. My only understanding of the word parcel was a parcel wrapped in paper, so to see little groups of fruit called a parcel, where is the parcel? Anyway, okay. In front of the squatting sellers who harangued everyone with their high-pitched calls. "Get your okra, gal. Lovely tomato lady. 25 cents a parcel. Look, these juicy mango. Darling, they eat too sweet. Sweet and nice." Yes, this is a little bit about cooking, because I learned to cook from my Guyanese mother-in-law, who was called Phillips, Mac's mother. I began to master the intricacies of my terra incognita. Soaking the small slabs of rigid greyish-yellow saltfish to remove the salt and soften it before shredding and frying it to a crispy amber with garlic and onions. Making coconut milk, levering out the hard flesh inside the shell, grating it on a knuckle-endangering old curved grater, soaking it in water and squeezing the sopping mass through a sieve to produce the rich white milk containing all the flavour. Pouring this over ground provisions in a pressure cooker to make the grey metagy that tasted so sweet with its topping of fried onions, fish and tomato. Picking shrimp, the finicky operation of shelling the tiny translucent raw grey shrimps that would add protein and flavour to the otherwise bland-tasting black-eyed peas and white rice. Phillips also introduced me to a Guyanese folk belief that was new to me, the conviction that when cooking, you should not go straight to the fridge. If circumstances require moving directly from stove to fridge, don't open the fridge door with your bare hands, or you'll get a cold in the stomach. I didn't know what a cold in the stomach was, never having had one. But in any case, to forestall any likelihood of catching one, a cloth hung on the fridge door handle to shield your hot hands from the cold metal, although to my perception in the tropics, that metal was never particularly cold. Okay, I'll stop there because I probably had my
And now straight on to Peter Amrico.
I suppose writing memoirs or writing an autobiography, you see, isn't it a pompous thing to do? Why the hell do you think that your life history is of any interest to anyone? Well, I don't hope that I'm pompous. One of the things being a health service manager, director, is that you're meant to be a serious bureaucrat. I ain't a serious bureaucrat. And one of the encouragements that I've had to do what I've done is my good friend Arif Ali. He has been on me over and over, "Peter, where's the book there?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying, Arif." "Peter, Ma, you're letting the place down." I said, "I'll try, Arif, I'll try." So one of the inspirations for the book has been Arif Ali, and I thank you, sir. Another inspiration is my own family. My dearest daughter, my darling daughter is here, Tara Lakshmi Devi. And I don't know whether Tara wants to say anything in German, French, Serbo-Croat or Spanish, because she's fluent in all those languages. Unfortunately, I have tried with Hindi for 50 years. I go to night school down the back dam in Mahika, and I couldn't learn Hindi. I spent 2 years in Pakistan, 3 years in Pakistan, and I tried with Urdu. Urdu and Hindi, similar. So the reason for writing the book is because there's so much that one is privileged to have shared in life, that it's good to leave some sort of memory as to your travels. We've heard so much of people's traveling and what they've done. When I tried to get the title for the book, I had Fame, Fortune and Fortitude, and we played around with the title, and I said, man, that's too common. So we tried and played around, and we got Recycling the Son of the British Raj. And you say, that's good, because of my Indian ancestry, we thought we'll look at the British Raj and how we migrated from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar to Guyana. But lots of very experienced people have done that. So what I decided to do with some advice is to entitle it Recycling the Son of the British Raj. And now when you look on the website and you look at recycling, I did an MBA at Westminster University, and everybody's in Twitter now, and somebody got in touch with me and said that they're doing a recycling program, and they just thought, could I advise them on the best waste paper management and recycling of nuclear waste and so on. I said, excuse me, I am not really recycling. I'm talking about recycling of me, not recycling of paper. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will just try and read quickly, because my dear friend Oren as well said, keep it short. So we'll try and keep it short. And my age, I'm 72, 73 in October. I have to take my glasses off. In June 1961, I was sitting having lunch on a bench in Main Street, a Tree-lined avenue in Georgetown, the capital, when I saw what I thought was an empty rum bottle with the top securely on, rolling from side to side. As there was no wind or other reason for the bottle to be moving, I thought this rather strange and took a closer look. What I saw was an embryonic being gesticulating with its hand for me to open the bottle and let it out. With some trepidation, I did just that, and out popped a tiny male doll-like figure, smelling of rum and swaying from side to side. Its words were, "Thank you, master. Me little groggy cause my previous owner pushed me in a rum bottle without washing it. And fumes was making me giddy. My name Basdale. And me know what you did. Your name is Peter. And you are planned to go to live on an island across the Atlantic called England." Yeah. Astonished by this, I asked I questioned Basdale. "How do you know my name and my plans to go to England?" Basdale replied, "Me can see in the future, but not in the past. Me met your Aji, your father, mother, paternal grandmother. And she say, what you is about to do reminds she when she first arrived in Demerara from India in 1904, because she was 18 and you a little picnic, a little child at 17. Yeah. So my companion in this journey was Basdale. Basdale is what in Britain and in Ireland we'll call a leprechaun, and we will call in the West Indies a Baku. So the Baku accompanied me. So that started, and my life then took place in different. One of the fundamental parts of my life was in the Royal Air Force, and Oren said he brought together lots of different people together, and I met Derek, and we both have our veterans badge on. Derek was in the Royal Air Force. I never heard of Derek before, and so it was a good thing what Oren and the Golden Committee are doing to bring people together.